Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Sarah Jane Adventures review. And I'd just like to profusely apologise the fact that there's not been any Sarah Jane Adventure reviews in a while. This is due to the fact that I've just been absolutely grinding on watching things such as One Piece and Danger Force and Naruto, so apologies for that. We'll have some videos on those at some point, but today we're getting back into the Sarah Jane adventures. So today's episode is The Mad Woman in the Attic. Now, what is The Mad Woman in the Attic about? Well, Rani Chandra has an old mate, a mate who lives down by the seafront. She hasn't seen this mate in years, and yet he keeps on asking her to try and break into this kind of theme park with him to discover what's really going on. After all, there's a caretaker who always seems to disappear and reappear, and the amusement park doesn't seem to have anything wrong with it, so there's no real reason for why it should be shut. Upon entering the theme park, Rani begins to get a sense that something isn't quite as it seems, and then suddenly she comes across exactly what she was looking for. It turns out that an alien girl has been living in the theme park for a very long time. She has the ability to move machinery with her mind. She's basically a telepath. This girl has the ability to move around things and really enjoys it and finds it fun. But as she's so young, she doesn't know how to control her abilities, and since all of her race is essentially dead, it doesn't make it any easier for her. The only two people who know about her is the caretaker and Rani's friend. Rani's mate basically runs out of the theme park scared of what he's helped her discover, and then eventually comes into contact with Sarah Jane Smith, Clyde, and Luke. When the three friends eventually manage to catch up with Rani in the theme park, they find themselves in a situation in which they're baffled at the fact that this has been allowed to happen. They begin to ask about how she came to be in the theme park. Due to the fact that Rani finds it very difficult at the moment to put up with Sarah Jane due to a little spat, they've had a little argument, that gets blown out of proportion, and the consequences are dire. The consequences of Rani's actions lead to the fact of Sarah Jane, Luke Smith, and Clyde all being wiped out of her life completely. She becomes totally alone and has to grow up for the rest of her life without them in her life on Bannerman Road. And then she gets nicknamed the Mad Woman in the Attic of Bannerman Road. However, luckily for Rani in this case, Rani and a young boy who she begins to tell the story to find themselves in a position in which everything that's happened can be reversed. It turns out that Ship got it wrong and Ship should never have taken her friends away. Luckily for her, the alien that she met years ago fell in love with her friend, and they have been travelling the stars ever since. The young man who walked into Rani's house is none other than their son, and he has come back to mend the wounds of the past. Rani goes back in time and relives the moment when the event took place, and instead of her friends being taken away, Rani's old friend and the alien who lived in the fairground go off into the stars, leaving them behind to save the Earth from alien threats. One of the key points I loved in this story is the fact that the red girl in the fairground, Eve, that's her name. Sorry, I just had to look that up. Eve in this story, I love how she tells the story that she escaped, essentially, the Time War. And this is another one of these mythology parts of the Doctor Who universe that really sinks in to the storyline. She explains to Rani without mentioning the Daleks themselves that a lot of people were exterminated during a war in which the worlds began to fall apart. I love this mythology not only because it gives us an angle on where we could have an episode with Eve's kind in the Time War, but also because it really solidifies the after effects of the Time War and how that seeps into not only the Sarah Jane adventures, but Torchwood and many other parts of the Doctor Who expanded canon. And for that reason, I give this story a solid 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Sarah Jane adventures. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, you beautiful people.